Weirding Way Media.
Night, Mr. Walters.
You see that guy over there? Now, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Hello and welcome back to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I am HP, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Father Malone. Hello, Father Malone.
Hey, I found $2,000 in a cab. I just wanted you to know that. I don't know what to do with it yet.
Just don't tell Louis because it's just going to be a thing. You know Louis is going to want the money, and there's going to be some
Maybe I shouldn't
crazy...
have told you either. Now I must kill you.
No, you got to, yeah. Let's keep it between us. As Father Malone alluded, this is one of the subplots to the episode that we will be discussing this episode. The episode is called Blind Date. It was written by Michael Leeson, and it's directed by our old friend, James Burrows. This is a Reiger-centric episode. In fact, one could make the case that this is ultimately a two-hander between Reiger and the person we'll be discussing right now. So the basic... We'll give a little bit of a synopsis of the show, this particular episode. So Bobby, being a cool actor guy, and this being a time before voicemail and before cell phones, the whole bit, Bobby has an answering service. And there's a woman on the answering service. One of the operators is named Angela. And all the cabbies love talking to Angela. She has a great voice. She holds great conversations with them. And she's just very pleasant. Alex comes in. He's had a great conversation with Angela. And Elaine encourages him to ask Angela out. So he gets on the phone and he asks her out. And all the other cabbies are very interested in this because, like I said, they've all had good conversations with her. And they're really interested to see how it goes. So Alex goes to her apartment and he discovers, unexpectedly for him, that she is overweight. And he's immediately uncomfortable, and she's completely hostile and really venomous and just keeps coming at him with invective. Judd Hirsch plays it so well because you can tell how apprehensive he is, but yet Alex being Alex and wanting to do the right thing, he still wants to go forward with the date, even knowing, I mean, there's a part of him, I'm sure, that is disappointed because she doesn't live up to his fantasy of what she would actually look like. But despite that, and despite the fact that she's being openly hostile to him, he continues to try. I mean, she's giving him all of these opportunities to leave the date and just call it quits. But he kind of prods her to continue with the date, and they end up going to Mario's. And things aren't any better there. She won't take off her coat, and she's really keeps goading him to end the date. She's just not a happy person. And the rest of the cabbies show up and they give Alex kind of a hard time. Even Laka, who kind of pokes fun at her in his native language. Eventually she storms off and leaves Alex there kind of alone in the restaurant. The next day, everybody's still giving Alex a hard time about the date, but he confides to Elaine. Alex confides to Elaine that he really can't stop thinking about Angela. And the dichotomy between their phone conversations, which went so well, and the in-person experience. And the thing that he says at one point is, I feel like I'm walking away from a car wreck with a person trapped inside. So Alex being the sensitive Alan Alda, another in the long line of sensitive males of the time, he just can't leave it. He can't get her out of his mind. So he decides to go by her apartment. And there's a funny bit where he flips a coin to decide whether he's going to go in. And I think he says, like, all right, best of 13. So clearly he's very nervous about seeing her again and wants to kind of give himself an out to leave. Anyway, she opens the door. She's confronting Alex, and she's coming at him with all of this sort of, this negativity. And Alex finally you can tell Alex wants to really break through her defenses and really try to get to the core of what her deal is and really get to know her a little bit. And eventually she softens to him. Ultimately, they kind of share a tearful hug and a commitment to be friends after all is said and done. But I'm shortchanging the conversation a little bit because it's clear that she's been hurt many, many times in the past. And the hostility is just her defense mechanism to keep people at arm's length so she won't be hurt again. So Alex really kind of gives her permission to be vulnerable again and breaks through her sort of armor of invective. And it's really kind of a beautiful thing to observe. And at the end of the day, it's not as if they're deciding that they're going to give themselves another shot at romance, but all they're doing is he just promises that he'll be there for her as a friend, be that shoulder that she can cry on if she wants to just talk or what have you, which is beautiful. This is ultimately just Alex and Angela's story. I just thought it was a really beautiful sort of feature for Alex and his patented brand of sensitivity. I applaud him. He had every opportunity to just sort of say, I shouldn't be here. This woman she's got problems and I should just leave it be, but he can't. There's something in him that wants to be there for her and be her friend. So I think that's kind of a wonderful thing. What were your impressions of the episode?
I hated this episode. I hated it.
Seriously?
I hated this episode.
Okay. All right, let's get into this. What did you hate about it?
I refute everything you just said.
Okay.
I think this is the most maudlin, treacly, fucking wistful bullshit 70s sensitive writing ever. This is every sitcom's take on dealing with a fat person. It's here's the thing. Yes, we know it's a defense mechanism. We know she's been hurt. We can see her. And more than that, we can see the way the background characters even just look at her. When the gang invades Mario's to let Reiger know that he's going to have to hold the money. That's the ostensible reason. But really, they've just come to see what Angela looks like. Watch Tony Danza's expression when Angela looks away and he knows that she's no longer looking at him. The eye roll says it all. So we know that Angela's whole venom brigade, her nonstop assault on a potential suitor, is based on prior experience. I would say, why go through the charade of pure, just unadulterated, scorched earth policy with a person who's taking you out for a fucking sandwich or a salad at a fucking bar? None of that made sense to me. And then,
okay, let me interrupt you for a minute. So it needs to be said, viewed through a modern lens, I agree. There's a danger here that the plot and the characterization could be viewed as insensitive and unenlightened. Okay, but let's understand. This is the late 70s. Okay,
everyone wants to write Marty. Everyone wants to have their own Marty. And here's this. Whoever wrote this episode, here's their Marty. That's what I have to say.
Two things I have to mention to you, and they probably, knowing you, Father Malone, they won't make a single lick of difference, but I feel like I have to mention them. Number one is this episode was nominated for an Emmy for outstanding writing in a comedy series. That's one. Number two, this episode also earned a Humanitas Award, which is given to writers whose work explores the human condition in a nuanced and meaningful way. So at least of the time, this episode was considered very progressive. So I just want to put that out there. Again, knowing that this will make no difference to you.
You are right. That makes absolutely no difference to me whatsoever. You know what? Way to go, Emmy voters. You sure can recognize, what is overtly award bait, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that this is one of the more for better or for worse, more of a quintessential Taxi episode, because yes, it may be looked on under, especially under a modern lens, of being treacly and maudlin. But for me, I think it's funny and bittersweet in equal measure. Okay. For me, that's the mark of a good episode of Taxi. You can call it maudlin. For me, the best episodes of Taxi are the ones about the small victories in the characters' lives and how they roll with the punches that life sends their way. Like, you could have, if you had the episode where, Alex goes to her apartment, she's mean and just bitter towards him, and then he just walks away and says, I think this was a mistake. There's no episode there. I think this is so in character for Reiger.
I agree with you. All the Taxi stuff is definitely like in keeping with the Taxi stuff. It's this outside element that they've brought in that's faulty. The thing is that they spend the entire first part of the first act telling us how charming and wonderful this girl is. Everybody says it. The actor saying it, the boxer is saying it, our lead guy is saying it. Like, just talk to her for hours. At any point in the rest of the episode, do you get even a scintilla, an iota of charm from this person? And by the way, stop saying that I'm looking at it through a modern lens. This is treacly maudlin nonsense in 79, in 69, in 59, in 2019.
This is treacly nonsense that won a Veritas Award and was nominated for an Emmy.
Oh my God. Well, then it must be good then. They only give awards to really good things.
How often do they give awards to really terrible, maudlin, overwrought things that don't deserve it?
Evidently all the time if they're giving it to this.
But let me back up for a minute, okay? So if I'm putting myself in Angela's shoes, I'm going to say that, so yeah, she can have all the confidence in the world when she's on the phone and she's talking to these people. They have no idea what she looks like and vice versa.
We have to take their word for it, is my point. We never get to see it in action.
She might have made this date in the heat of the moment of this conversation, right? But then the last thing maybe she expected was that this guy was going to call her on her bluff. So now there's this date that she's had dates before that went horribly wrong. So I think it's very realistic for her to like say, well, I know this is going to go well, so I'm going to own the awfulness of this date before my date has a chance to hurt me even more. So I'm going to be the one who's going to be the bully in this situation. I'm going to try to take the power away from this other individual and make it easier for them to walk away because I can't go through with this in the first place.
Oh, yes. No, it all makes perfect psychological sense. It's just really boring television for a sitcom about people in this garage. I want to know about them and their lives, not this after school special masquerading as an episode of Taxi.
But you learn so much about Alex. That's exactly what this episode is about.
We knew that in episode 1, entirely about him racing to meet his daughter for 10 seconds to have a connection with her. If that doesn't sum up Reiger, I don't need a reinforcement that he would continue on this date with this horrible harridan of a human who is, I don't care what her motivation is, but it's really boring and it doesn't make for good television. And I don't need that reminder of what a good guy Reiger is. In One Punch Banta, he's there with the fucking robe for Banta. He breaks up that fight. That champ is going to kill Tony Banta in that episode, and Reiger jumps in and even says I've never been so scared. So it doesn't make this episode better for me that it reinforces what a good dude Reiger is.
You raised some good points, I guess, but if that's the case, if we already know what a good guy Reiger is, then why have him featured in any of these stories at all? If it's just going to reinforce what we already understand about the character, it makes no sense. You have to see him in different situations to know to see how he's going to react. And I think his reaction here and the way it's played beautifully by Judd Hirsch is so believable, because it's so clear from the beginning when he arrives. He shows up at the apartment and the number falls off of her door and he goes to pick it up, and then he looks up and there she is. You see everything play across Judd Hirsch's face. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. I thought she was this beautiful, sexy woman, and here's somebody who doesn't fit that ideal version of her that I've had in my head. What do I do? Okay, I think I'm going to try and be tactful and move forward with this and be as nice about it as I can possibly be. But every step of the way, you see every bit of apprehension, every bit of uncertainty about what he should be doing or what he wants to do, and what's maybe going to hurt this woman versus what does he do? If that's not brilliant acting, I don't know what is.
Am I beating up on Judd Hirsch's performance? Absolutely not. I'm beating up on the episode that was written around that performance, which I still believe is not very, very good. I think it's award bait. It's not good. It's very obvious in its conclusions, and it's virtue signaling 1970s style. Like, pick a topic that is usually not really discussed, which is like an overweight person and like how they're treated. And the treatment is always the same. Like the writing of that character, it's either like it crazily hostile or crazily hostile. And yes, wonderful that they give us the reason why that might be, but that's all that character ends up being in this episode.
I see, and I disagree.
They talk about this charming person who never materializes, even at the end. By the way, why is she breaking down in like this sort of super maudlin, like, speaking of Rod Serling, this like, theater from the radio drama from the 1930s, like, would it be okay if we call each other, just for a friend? Like that sort of like street ragamuffin kind of dialogue that is passing for 1979. Like, I don't know.
Again, I hear you. And I understand.
Yikes.
What you're saying.
Where at any point other than her going from like total aggression to total like a basket case, like where was the charm in that character at all? I don't know. The idea that we understand why she's being a fucking asshole, like, does not make up for any of the other poor writing, that we never see this character as anything other than the harridan or the sort of baby. Where's the human being in any of that? I don't know. I didn't see it myself. And if you're going to hang the whole episode on aren't we being sensitive and tackling the sensitive subject, then you have to give us a real character other than the psychological underpinnings of why they're a prick, for me. Or do an episode that reinforces what a good guy Reiger is with an interesting, well thought out plot that doesn't offend me to my core.
Everything is in service to telling us more about Reiger. Yes, we already had an idea that he was a good guy. Yeah, we see him rush to his daughter in episode 1, and we see him trying to help out Banta in episode 2. But I still think I liked seeing it's, for me, it's worth it to be able to observe Judd Hirsch's performance, because I think it is so complex. This won't be the last time we see him romantically involved with somebody who is either out of his league or there's some other overarching concern that he has to deal with. So, but again, for me, I while I can recognize that the plot of this episode, or at least some of the characterizations, are dated. Again, let's remind ourselves, this is the late 70s. We've come a long way towards understanding and being more sensitive towards topics like this. Okay. It's, for me, in this case, it's worth it to be able to experience Judd Hirsch's performance. I think he's awesome. I think this is another good example of why he is ostensibly the star of Taxi, because I don't know, there's something about his ambivalence and his steadfast sort of desire to, in the face of everything saying to him, stay away from this person because she's just gonna make you not want to spend time with her. But there's something in Alex that can't let it be. And and that seems, to your point, to be virtue signaling. But damn it, Judd Hirsch makes me believe it and makes me love the character even more.
Well, I appreciate your appreciation of this. I do not share your appreciation of it. But
clearly.
Yeah, this was a low point. I did not enjoy watching it the first time or rewatching it several times in preparation for this. The good part of this episode to me is that now I never have to watch it again. Can I tell you what I liked about the episode? I've been kicking the shit out of this episode.
No, please do.
I like as silly as we found the money and we don't know what to do with it, like the slow sort of mirroring of Treasure of the Sierra Madre where nobody like trusts each other in the garage. Like if that had been the A plot and Angela had been the B plot, I might have liked this episode a lot better. See, ultimately, I just want to hang out with these people in this situation. And it's too early, and the writers haven't figured out that that's what's going to continue to buoy the season or the series in general. So here's to the future.
We are in for a lot more of that. And even if we disagree on this particular episode, we do agree. I love it when with the episodes where they get together as an ensemble and they're working together through the plot. I love that because these actors are so funny. And when you get them all in one room doing funny things, bouncing off of each other, that's where you get, to me, that's the real magic. The stuff with the money, the $2,000 that Latka finds, even if ultimately they didn't do much with that sort of plot at all, they find the money, they give the money to Alex to safekeep because they don't want it. They're afraid someone's going to steal it. And then they decide to give it to Latka. And that's basically it, right? So not much else happens there, but it's kind of funny.
And all the while, Angela hammering on poor Reiger. Enjoy your salad. No, I hate salad and I hate you. Well, did you catch the Mets game? The Mets are death and you'll be dead. That now's your chance to run, Alex. Now's your chance to run.
In your mind, this has become some sort of, Edward Albion drama where they're sitting across from each other at a table.
That's what it is. I didn't imagine this. This is happening on screen. You can see it for yourself.
It's rare that we can come at something from two diametrically opposed points of view.
Well, startling when it happens.
It's great, and it makes the review that much more intriguing to hear because, like I said, I'm watching this. And it could be my history with the show, and I've seen this episode a million times. I about fell over when you launched into your sort of diatribe against Angela, and by extension, this particular episode.
It's not good. I don't recommend it. Guess what? Guess how many lights I'm giving this one.
Well, hold on. So let's take a moment here. Before we get to our rating of this episode, I would be really remiss if I didn't mention the fact that, so the character's name is Angela. In fact, the theme of Taxi by Bob James is the name of the song is Angela, theme from Taxi. And the reason for that is this song was originally composed with the character in mind. This was supposed to run during this particular episode. And I think we talked about this in episode 1 of the podcast. The original song slated for the theme of Taxi was going to be a song called Touchdown off of the album of the same name. But as things turned out, Angela was a much more suitable theme for the show, and it stuck, and now it's iconic. So I just wanted to mention that this is where the iconic theme from Taxi really comes from, which I think is another interesting bit of trivia there.
Okay, so there are two good things about this episode that I don't have to watch it again, and that the actual theme for the TV series Taxi came from this episode, and it is a great theme, and we did sort of discuss it ad nauseum in the first episode.
just to remind our audience, we are going to grade this episode or grade our episodes on how many yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Thank you again, Jim Ignatowski. 1 yellow light is the worst rating. 5 yellow lights are the best rating, and we are not going by half lights. It's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I think I already know what rating you're going to give this, Father Malone, but why don't you go ahead and enlighten us? How many yellow lights?
I can't give half lights.
No.
I can't give negative lights, can I?
Well, no, because here's the thing.
Can I give it a broken light? Can I give it like a lightly malfunctioning and therefore a little bit atmospheric light?
No, because for you to, if you were going to give this a grade of a negative yellow light, let's say, I would push back on that, because I think that means that there is absolutely nothing to redeem this episode at all. And I refuse, even the worst Taxi episode, as I said in the last episode of the podcast, there's something, it's still better than your average mediocre sitcom. So with that in mind, how many yellow lights do you give this episode?
One, obviously one. I did not enjoy this. I don't want to watch it again. I do not recommend this one. I actively tell people to avoid it now.
For my part, I'm giving this episode 5. No, I'm kidding. I'm giving it 3 yellow lights. I'm focusing more on Alex and Judd Hirsch's performance as the character and how he acts and reacts throughout the episode. And for me, that's enough to give the episode 3 yellow lights, because I think he's so good in it. And there's a few funny supporting bits that kind of help bring the show along. Because if this was just limited to Alex and Angela's sort of back and forth, I may not be so charitable with my review, but I do think overall, I think it's slightly better than average. Let's put it that way. Okay. Better episodes to come going forward, but this is, it's decent.
Ooh.
So, but the good news for you, Father Malone, is that it can only go up from here.
So looking forward to the next episode.
I think the worst is yet to come, because we still have many
Get ready for that, listeners.
We have more John episodes and some, regrettably, John-focused episodes of Taxi to come. And who knows, maybe you and I will have a difference of opinion when those come along too.
I'm gonna love those, just to be contrary.
I want more Randall Carver. Where is he? If we agreed 100% on each and every aspect of these reviews, this would be a very boring review show. So I like that we're coming at this from 2 totally different viewpoints, and we can agree to disagree, and it makes for a more lively discussion, I think. So I appreciate it. And I would expect nothing less than your unvarnished, honest opinion.
1 light.
Say it again. How many yellow lights?
1 light. Just one light. Only one.
Let me reiterate. And again, 1 yellow light.
Thank you for once again having me on. And I'd like to say 1 light. Don't watch this episode.
Well, I appreciate it. And as always, I love talking Taxi with you, Father Malone. So the next episode, we will be discussing Bobby's acting career. This is the first Bobby Wheeler centered episode, not the last. But we'll get to know our would-be acting cabbie a little bit better. Until then, I am HP.
And this is Father Malone.
And we thank you once again for listening to Night Mr. Walters, a Taxi podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.